And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. It's the late show. Hope everyone's doing all right. I'm your host, Carrie. With me, as always, he is a man of strength, patience, and compassion. My good friend, everybody's good friend, Brad Hatcher. And Bailey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today, Kerry?
You know, I'm
Did
I'm
you get
here.
moved okay?
Yeah, yeah, in a completely different location. Phone. So I'll be seeing alarms and probably texting guys to go catch them while I'm here. But we have a returning guest. James Lady's with us. He has the Michigan Aboriginal Project. You can find him on YouTube. Very, very interesting stuff he's got there on his channel. Some pretty good audio evidence for sure. What I've heard, pretty compelling stuff. So welcome, James. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be back. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled that I was invited back, and here we are.
Absolutely. Well, I thought it was a good show. Brad and I both thought it was a good show last week, and I knew there was some more stuff we could get into. And joining us also is John, and John's I wouldn't say John's a skeptic. I think John is here and probably going to be joining us from time to time, just kind of representing that. Because Brad and I have seen these creatures, we know they're out there, and our guest is pretty well convinced. And I don't think John. He's just going to be able to bring those questions that the average person doesn't look into Bigfoot so much. The whys and hows and the things that we don't think to ask because we just don't think to ask him. So we brought John to do that. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? I'm having a good old busy good day.
Well, it's good to see you, and I appreciate you doing this too, because I thought about doing this for a while, and trying to find the right person. I think the right mentality to bring those questions from not necessarily the fence rider or the skeptic, but to have those questions that a skeptic would ask or someone that's just not sure, and because we get it. It's a hard thing for anybody that hasn't had a real experience to grab hold of. Even in the moment, it's like a dream. You're just there and it doesn't seem real because it's not supposed to be. It's just the way we're conditioned, I guess, to hear. Anytime you hear the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch, to think fake. It's just the way it is. So, we got a super sticker already. Thank you so much for that. NG Les Paul, a musician. Appreciate that very much. Before we get started, just remind everyone, keep it clean for us in the chat. We do appreciate that very much. You guys be nice to each other. You always are.
Oops.
And
I'm on log patrol by the fire here. I'll be right back.
Oh, a fire. I miss a fire. Every time I talk to Linda, she's putting wood on the fire. And the dog, he gets up on the hearth and lays by it, and he'll come get on the couch, and one side of him will be hot, and the other side will be cold. He's been laying up there by the fire.
Sorry about that, guys.
The smell of a good fire too.
Yeah, we got a little extra dose this evening.
Well, I want to remind everyone, and I'll remind everyone again later, that we are going to have a members only tomorrow night. I'll be flying solo with the She Squatchers. Jen, and Tammy are going to join me tomorrow at 7:00 p.m. Central, just for members. If you'd like to be a member, you can join. Look down beside the subscribe button. It should say join, and you can join there. We appreciate everyone that supports us here at Bigfoot Odyssey very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please give the ladies my regards. They've invited me on their Wednesday. I got a standing date night with my wife on Wednesdays.
That's right, because you couldn't do this Wednesday show with us.
The Wednesday before last. Yeah.
And I think we've got some pretty good shows planned coming up, but we're going to get into this one tonight. I can't remember where exactly we left off, but James, if you want to just kind of briefly summarize what you're doing.
What I'm doing is, I found out just the Cliff Notes version. I found out that the species were in fact real just by my wits and reckoning and a little research I was doing on YouTube. First time I was using YouTube as a research utility and found everything I needed for the Boundary Waters trip, and then finally clicked on that link and went down the rabbit hole, determined that the species were in fact real. I was going up north anyway to Favorite Valley. I used to spend a lot of time in as a kid, fishing, poking around the rivers, looking for trout, and any way I could get them, whether it be worm. And I later got into fly fishing, and it's just an area that I learned that was prime habitat, and started studying the area, looking for, studying the lay of the land, looking for choke points, just all this kind of stuff, and structures. Eventually got into structure seeking, and I really enjoyed that. It got me away from the river and into the hills, and I felt like a little kid in the woods again. It renewed my enthusiasm for being outdoors. I'd kind of burn out on the fishing and my artistic photographic journey. And
now I'm fishing.
Yeah, well, I know it's tough. Well, I still go.
That's a lot of fishing.
I'm probably ice fishing tomorrow. You get a rod in my hand.
Oh, that's right. You were going last Saturday.
Yeah, last Saturday we struck out. Well, we got one. I got one keeper, but we let it go. Sunday though, they turned on and we got a nice mess of fish. A little date night fare for my Wednesday time with my wife, and it was really good. And I have enough fish in the freezer now to take down to Florida next week.
That's right.
Father. Yeah, he's a big fish eater. Not much. He likes catching fish. He doesn't like striking out as often as I do. So yeah, we'll be hitting. We have another couple of weeks of ice left on Lake St. Clair, and I'm going to be taking advantage of it. So anyway, but I found this great interest and learned that I just wanted to see Bigfoot. If they were in fact real, I just wanted to go check it out, and I learned what to look for. And like I said, I started out looking for structure and such and other sign. And before you know it, they were coming right outside my campsite. And they've done that quite a few times, two of which were encounters where I ended up. The first time was a stare down, and the second time, John, for your edification, they came out and made quite a racket. I heard this chi-chi-chu-ha from the river, and I was like, really blown away and confused at the moment, and trying to immediately digest what was going on, and then immediately started questioning what the hell I was doing out there, because at that time it was October, was it 21st, 2019, and they were there. I was out alone in the woods, in the rain, under my tarp, sipping on a beer, and this all went down. And so anyway, before that, I had gotten into some recording. When I find structures, I would drop a recorder. I used to try to hide them. I don't any longer. They always found them, but I got some really weird sounds early on, and it took me a while to really decipher what was going on. So about a year before I actually figured it out, there was the encounter, and 2 nights later, I got some audio from a new structure in the valley, and that helped me decode essentially what the recorder captured during my encounter, because I didn't hear a lot of what was actually going on. I heard maybe 20-30 seconds of it, the scary part, and then and a lot of other weird stuff that I couldn't decipher. The clicky clucky, the melodic clucking, that they were going on, and it was really not detectable to my ears at that time. The recorder picked it up, and I don't know how or why. I kind of speculate that my tarp was set up in somewhat of a parabolic fashion, so that the recorder, which is on top of a storage bin underneath the tarp, sort of picked it all up, and maybe it was amplified. I don't know, but they were able to speak and communicate at length without my knowing so, save for the audio. When they,
The recorder picked it up.
Clearly know. Yeah. And I didn't know that for a month. I didn't analyze that recorder for about a month. I had to really kind of decompress or defrag, as you said, Brad. It was a pretty amazing, scary encounter. I mean, they were very vocal, and I have no one at home to talk about it with. My daughters won't talk to me about it. My wife thinks I'm, like I said, guano crazy last week, and guano loco.
Guano loco.
Yeah, and
look that up, kids.
Yeah. So after a month, I listened, and then I was screwed up for another 3-4 months, having realized that there were multiple subjects out there, and they were carrying on amongst themselves, unbeknownst to me.
What's that feeling? James, when you're sitting there and then, I mean, is it like, this epiphany, like all of a sudden, holy crap? Or, I mean,
Yeah,
is there something that
one of
comes over
those.
you?
I'd gotten up to stretch, and that's when I heard the Achichichuha, and then I heard a couple swishing sounds, which doesn't come through on the recorder. The recorder has a different story to tell based on what I remember that night. Then I heard this big boom.
Did you explain kind of why you thought it didn't come over on the recorder?
Well, much more came over the recorder than I was able to hear at the time, and I didn't understand why. I was listening to this. Another recorder that was recorded on something that I could that had a PC interface. So I was hearing this stuff that was completely foreign to me. It wasn't until maybe a few weeks after that a friend of mine from church, who's an engineer, he connected the other recorder that picked up the sounds at the structure I found a couple nights later and recorded from. Mm-hmm. We actually were able to get it off the recorder. It's a cheap one. It's like, I don't think I have it here. It didn't have a PC interface, so it was not easy to get off, and it was just weird clicking, weird stuff that I couldn't really decipher, and it had to be cleaned up a little bit and amplified, and that's the recording that is almost 4 minutes. It's called Voices from the Depths of the Woods, and you have conventional speech and also that clicky clucky melodic stuff.
Which for me, I mean, going off of what I watched on your videos, because I went and checked out your channel, of course.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, yeah, not a problem. And I like Carrie has said, I'm skeptic, side leaning, but with an open mind, very open minded. Mm-hmm. But from a person who doesn't study this stuff, like Carrie had said, this hard, to me it sounded like rain. I'm going to tell you how I saw it.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'm looking for per se. I found, what makes the difference of the audio to the ear in a recorder, because I don't know anything like that. I'm just curious on that front.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about it myself. I'm not officially trained in audio analysis. I really kind of had to forge my way and learn as I went along. You can hear the rain in my encounter audio, which is the in their midst 10 minutes uninterrupted. You can hear the rain in the background, and that's pretty consistent through the recording. And however the magic of the audio software works, I think it was able to mute that consistent sound.
Okay.
And the other weird stuff, I mean, it really is very esoteric. And I like I said, I couldn't figure out for a while until I was able to listen again to the Voices from the Depths of the Woods, that 4-minute recording.
Nope.
And that recorder was set on a voice activated mode. So that's 4 minutes over one night, and it wasn't raining that night. So it was free of any, external, din of the woods or rain or wind. It was a calm night, no rain. And you get that weird stuff. But you also have the conventional speech. Early on, one says helicopters, and then a very low "come with me." This is how it sounds to me, and I know we all hear things differently.
Yeah, but look, this is the thing with it, okay? And this is how I feel about Sasquatch, just as a species. I know these creatures are out there, and I think most people, what they're looking for, in my estimation, is usually the wrong thing. They're looking for some dark shape, whatever, out in the open, and a lot of the pictures that I see reflect that. But to me, these creatures are trying to hide. They're trying to look more like the bushes. So it makes sense to me that if they're going to speak, that they would use some kind of cover, just like they cover themselves. If they're close by and it's raining. And do you think that you just listened to it long enough that finally it started coming through for you?
Yeah, it took a while to decipher, and you could easily argue that in a situation like that, when you're listening to something for a long time and you're coming up with conclusions, could be auditory pareidolia. But I've studied this enough, and I have the cross reference of the two different nights. With they were just 2 nights apart. It was Monday and Wednesday night, and yeah, there's no difference. I mean, toward the end of the Voices from the Depths of the Woods, you hear an FFFeme, SFATIF. So there's that conventional language which we can clearly hear, and it's mixed in with the melodic clucking, the weird stuff, and it's all integrated. And in the encounter audio, you have periods where you have a very intensified yellow presentation of something going on, which is coincidental very often with an amplification in the spectrograph, the graphical analysis, and the spectrogram below. Those may not be the right terms, but when you see that intensified yellowing at the bottom and the very low frequencies, and a coincidental amplification of the graph, but also taller. a blackening on the spectrogram where it looks like there's no sound. So my thinking is that the intensified yellow represents infrasound, and it blocks out a lot of what I would otherwise be able to hear. So, my personal theory is that the infrasound is sometimes employed as a normal vocal modality with this species to disable our ability to hear the conventional stuff that would be there if the infrasound were not present coincidentally.
So it covers it up.
Yeah, that's my thinking. Yeah, okay. And that's really kind of like the true samurai chatter. I mean, we associate that with Ron Moorhead's chat, because it's weird. It sounds like those old movies, and I think that's where the term comes from. We can liken it to that. But I think this is like the infrasound is employed as a modality to really disguise what else is going on there. And at times during the encounter, I could sense like the pressure, and I refer to it as a harmonic resonant speech, if you will, or vocal. Very, very complicated, very, very weird. And it is foreign to me. It's like, I was once snorkeling down in St. Lucia, and I saw a small pod of squid together, like 5 or 6, maybe 7, and they all changed color simultaneously. It's like, how do they communicate with one another to do that? Or, I mean, maybe they all saw me and they all just had the same instinctive response to change color. But it was wild. It was like a fluorescent, different colors of the spectrum. It was really super cool. And the depths of the oceans, it's a completely different world. And I now believe that the depths of the woods have creations that are as equally mysterious. But I think the vocals that I've picked up, and I've been recording the year prior to the encounter locally around Ann Arbor and other places, and there was a lot that I didn't understand, just weird stuff. I heard some stuff that was clearly audible, but you could analyze footage that was just odd and discover that there are odd things behind that print, that voice print, if you want.
Now, do you recall from when you were recording the audio to when you were listening to it, and it reminded you of something that you heard, or did you? Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you recall in person hearing what you heard on the audio in some way, shape, or form?
Well, during the encounter, there was that 20, 30 seconds that I could recall, but even then, I remember my memory of what happened. And because I told a friend about it the other day, I heard this swishing sound right after the Ochichichuha, and that's not evident on the audio recorder from what that picked up. So I was hearing something differently, and that's maybe an intensifying of the pressure or the harmonic resonance that I, as I call it.
Well, and you also don't know when something like that happens, in the terror or fear or however you want to say it, what senses heighten or dull when that happens. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
If you get like the oh shucks moment, if you just somehow or another, how sometimes when people have experiences, they only can remember certain parts of it, just because that terror.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I wonder, and I obviously know nothing about what I'm trying to say because I'm doing such a poor job at it. But
You do.
if you just kind of black out, or you only can remember like a certain portion, where hearing you might not recall because of the heightened senses or the heightened awareness, or just I guess being scared.
Yeah. Well,
I butchered that.
No, you didn't. And you take me back to the moment where, I heard the conventional achichichuha, and then that swishy stuff, and then a big boom. After that, I felt this raspy static, I call it, on my eardrums. And that was, it was really uncomfortable. It didn't last forever. And I think I say at the time, what was that? Or what is that? At that time, I didn't share this with you last week. The tarp moved and a bunch of water was shed from the tarp, and it says it was like my tarp was set up on trees. It's like in my mind maybe one of these creations was in the tree or was pushing a tree. I don't know to cause all that, but it was like the perfect storm concentrated in just a few moments. That it was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I was in shock, and I honestly thought those were going to be my last moments, because I still didn't understand, this species. I mean, they didn't molest me. I didn't see a single one that night. I stayed within the dome of my light, as I mentioned last week, and just decided to take that path of least resistance because I didn't know what else to do. And it gave me an opportunity to assess the situation and just mellow out. And nothing happened. Nothing jumped into the light. I mentioned I thought at one point one might be right behind me counting coup. I just stayed still. It was the only thing I could do because I was this small in the woods in what turns out to be in the company of multiple creations. Yeah, it is terrifying. I actually didn't discharge my firearm once, my 357 carry, and I remember everything went white, and I was like, "Oh crap! I can't believe I just did that. I was dumb."
Very loud.
I thought the safety was very loud.
Yeah, very loud,
and it hurt. That little cannon. It hurts your hand to fire it. It's a big load in a small package, and. Anyway, I remember after that moment, everything went white, and I was like, it was weird. It was very, very surreal. And you prolong that experience because that's just one big boom. And hearing them carry on and having experienced that big boom where I felt the sonic, percussion that just boom, it hit me. It was terrifying. I'm shaking inside right now, just kind of recalling.
Would you describe a really loud bass system kind of feel? Because for somebody who's never experienced that,
it's what it sounded like was a big empty dumpster being dropped onto concrete from a few feet above. Just a big boom, okay. And I felt that. So yeah, it was big bassy. It was, but it was just an explosion of sound that you felt. I mean, it just went right through you, and you're disoriented. The whole experience was disorienting and rather terrifying.
I've unfortunately been around a lot of explosions where the concussion hits you, and it can lift you off your feet pretty good almost if you're close enough to these types of concussive waves. So I can't imagine something out there doing that from just in the woods, or in the distance. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I've experienced many times, only in this one place where these creatures, where I know they lived, was a thump on the ground. And we lost Brad. Oh, no. And I mean, I could be sitting in a tree house, in a tree stand, 20 feet up. I could be in my shooting house. It didn't matter. I heard this, boom, you could feel it through the ground.
Interesting.
I had never experienced that anywhere else that I could recall. And my rationality for it was a rabbit. Seriously.
Really?
Because rabbits will get on top of a cut stump and they'll poop. You find rabbit poop sitting on top of a cut stump all the time. And
Here I am.
let me trade with you, Brad.
Okay.
And I'm thinking there's a rabbit sitting on this stump and he's hitting the stump and it's just, through.
What would
But
you call it? Instrument almost at that point.
right. But I mean, I'm not equating that to what happened to you. It just made me think about that when you talked about this noise that you heard.
Yeah.
But
in a subsequent recording in 2020, it was August 11th up in the UP. I found a village of structures, and in one of the recorders picked up. It's the Hanzo file, and at the beginning of it, you'll hear a big boom, and it brings back memories because that's exactly what I experienced. Now, there were no people around when this footage was captured. So the big boom, I'm curious to know, and you think 1,000 things about all this and try to make sense of it all, but that big boom, I'm wondering if it's part of a greeting or it's an expression of anger. I don't know. Because on the Hanzo file, you hear that boom early on, and then you hear moments later one say Hanzo. It's just a weird thing. But, I wasn't present for that, thank goodness, because those sounds are even more terrifying than what I heard.
Well, when you think about communication and these creatures communicating with each other when someone else is around, a tree knock or hand clap or however they make this noise they make when it sounds like wood on wood, but they could be doing it with their mouth or their hands or,
I think it is a vocal.
Okay, fair enough.
Personally, yeah.
But if they're in a position to where they maybe think if they do this, I'm just going to give my position away, that they're doing this thing on the ground, maybe, or some other way of communicating. I didn't think it was. I don't think it was for me when I heard this happen. I think they were with each other, and I heard plenty of things talking. Heard talking. It sounded like someone's coming up the trail behind me, and I would yell at them, and just a lot of different interactions. But I think they find ways to communicate with each other when they're sitting observing you.
Yeah, well, there's no question in my mind after having listened to my encounter audio 1,000 times.
Well,
I call it therapy.
It makes you wonder too if they do something like that just to get you off guard immediately.
Well,
or if they do some sort of just to scare you. And maybe we can hypothesize till the cows come home, but just a thought.
Well, I've had conversations with Igor Burtsev, and he says they're pranksters, and they will. From all the encounter audio or witness testimonies that I've heard, I believe they're pranksters. And later the night of my encounter, that Monday night, they came in to my camp and knocked down the supportive pole for the tarp. I got them doing their clicky thing, and they knock it down. And I also used a stick to support part of the, and it was less precariously placed as the pole. So the pole was pretty darn secure, holding up most of the tarp, and they definitely came in and dislodged that. And I've got that on audio as well.
Oh, is that on your YouTube?
No, I haven't published that. There's a lot I haven't published. There's really weird stuff out there, and it's not all published. Much of it is so esoteric, and I'll play it during a presentation that I'll give. I've got one, actually, I'm on the same speakers panel as Ron Moorhead, which is an amazing honor, this September in Dowagiac, Michigan. It's got the Bigfoot and Brews conference. It's bigfootandbrews.com. And they're selling tickets. It's put on by the Uncomfortable podcast. And
when is it?
It's September 10th in Dowagiac at Sister Lakes Brewing Company.
Nice.
And it's going to be an all-day event. And there are 4 speakers. One is a local hunter. It was an opening day experience he had, I think, with his kids. Ron Moorhead and Val Zavala. If you don't know his name, he runs a
We know Val.
Yeah, Gumshoe.
Yeah, Gumshoe guy. Yeah, his was one of my favorite Sasquatch Chronicles interviews early on when I did the deep dive into this subject. So I'm just tickled to find out that he lives close. We've spoken several times.
Val's a true researcher
Mm-hmm.
in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, if anybody was going to do it, if I was going to do it, that would probably be the way I would want to do it. The way
and with his law enforcement background, it lends some credibility and objectivity to his study. And he's got probably more data than he's ever confessed to have. But he shares it with this group, and it's really great.
That's important. Go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of people have more, it seems like, that than what they share, just because some of it, you know, I've heard, you know, it's just so crazy that it's illogical still. But anyway, long and short of it is, a lot of people I've heard that keep a lot of stuff, you know, not necessarily close to the vest, but just don't publish it.
Yeah, I'm certain. Yeah, I'm sure that I'm not the only one out there that has this kind of stuff. I had some crazy romantic notion that I would, you know, somehow help identify, you know, or the recognition of this species. There's enough out there. You know, I got one on video and a ton of audio, and much of which I haven't shared. Some of which that I haven't shared, I'm going to use in my documentary, because that night's recording starts with snoring. I'd observed for some time activity around one of the structures near Ann Arbor that appeared to be juvenile type activity. So
why would you say juvenile?
Well, there was playful like activity. There was a cup, ceramic cup, teacup, that would move every time I went there. It was in a different place, and at one point there were pine needles cleared from the ground and sticks arranged almost like utensils, and the cup was also there. It's as if a juvenile were playing house with this teacup. We all know they watch us in our homes. Oftentimes they observe. And they probably have seen people eating dinner, and I'm just wondering. It's all speculation. I can't say for sure, but my suspicion was.
Glad you said that.
Well, it's there's no other way. And how am I don't know.
Be surprised how many people assert things.
Well, I actually have something to interject into all of that. Surprisingly enough, I live in Southwest Michigan. I used to live in Westland, Michigan, and Lansing, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So I've been in a lot of these places, and I know for a fact that I've seen and I've done with friends, go out there and mess with stuff, put stuff up there, move stuff around. I mean, I'm not saying what you have witnessed is not true. I just know firsthand off the bat that I've done that kind of thing.
Okay.
Personally, and not to mess with people by any means, just bored, having fun, never thinking of Bigfoot, by the way. A long time ago, you know. Like that. So I'm curious as to how you can decipher if something truly is associated with this phenomenon or is kids. You know, that's something that I'm kind of back and forth on, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I also, what I'm going to show on in the documentary when I review this one night, it was January 6th, 2019. And that's the same location where this teacup was moving here and there. It starts with snoring. Later on, I have coughing, 2 or 3 coughs from what I presume to be the mother. But I also have throughout that some really weird vocalizations that my later findings, tell me that, yes, this is some sort of cryptid, most likely Sasquatch. You know, I've got one saying Esau ha. I've got a really weird popping, crackly vocal that is not human whatsoever. All of this in a ceremony. Carrie, I think I sent you a clip. It sort of sounds ceremonial. It's a 28-second clip, and it ends with bump. It's weird. It's weird, but it sounds sort of, almost militaristic. Some weird vocal. It reminds me of the was it the Wizard of Oz,
Mhm.
and the chanting going on among those flying monkey.
Well, let me see if I can get it up here.
Well, and real quick, John, a lot of people, researchers, and it seems like you always hear that the mischievous ones are the juvenile. That's the theory that everybody has.
Yep.
Just for whatever that's worth, too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I kind of heard that quite often, and I agree with that because I mean, every juvenile of all species, they're the ones that get into the trouble. It doesn't matter what it is, you know. The first one figures it out, and maybe as they get older, they may, you know, learn the ways that they should. And however it all works out with different sects of species and all that stuff, and however the chain works of, you know, Sasquatch. So it's always something to think about for sure.
Yeah, lots of theories.
Yeah, like I said last week, it's a big puzzle, and it's fun. It's fun for me, who I need to have both sides of my brain going all the time, or else I'm gonna atrophy. I'm gonna, you know, die. I've been depressed in the past, and that's when I was not fully engaging my mind on a regular basis. There were other extraneous factors, but I'm glad I have this hobby now to keep me going. Really, I haven't done a lot of audio recording lately. Just haven't felt like it. I had an opportunity to go back to where I captured the Hanzo file and the other speech that is on that Hear One See One video, Carrie, that you saw that reminded you to get in touch with me.
Yes,
it scared me I really am hesitant to go back to that place, just based on what I've heard. Their eyes were on me while I was there. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And that speech that I captured shortly after I left, it sounded angry. That target shock tall, it ends with that. It's a different world, it's a different universe, and curiosity did kill the cat. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a dead cat.
Yeah, it's,
so far,
it's
I've lived to
freaky.
tell the story. It is otherworldly stuff.
I'm trying to figure out how to share this audio, and I think I have it.
Okay. Yeah, just
Oh, here we go.
There you go. Oh. I'll be able to tell at first sight if you got the right file.
You might have to send it to me a different way. Yeah,
it's in one of my best of files. I got two publications called the best of. There's just 1 and 2. Let me see if I can't quickly pick it up here.
We can go old school. Is this it?
It sounds like the background din.
Something. It was right there at the end. There was some kind of call for something. You guys hear that?
Let me pull it up. It initially I thought it was like clapping and stomping.
I don't know if you guys can hear.
Oh, that's the coughing. That's the cough. Sounds like coughing.
One time. Can you guys hear that?
That's
Were you able to hear that? Anybody?
I was able to hear it. Yes.
It was loud though for me. I could, but it was pretty loud.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, here's the one I was just talking about. Oh, sorry. I should do it here. Let me rewind. I was doing it up to the camera. Bump, bump, bump. And there's round 2 here.
Oh, I heard that.
I'll speed up to it. Here, right here. Here it comes. And it ends with that bump, the lump, hoo. Weird, freaky. I don't know. Did
Subtle.
you hear that well enough?
A little. I
Okay.
mean,
The audience.
I'm
can
sure if
hear
you
it
got
in,
headphones
one of my
on, and when you put headphones on, you can probably hear all the little subtleties and nuances that leads you to believe that that's what it is. But for someone that's got terrible audio, it's like somebody watching 168 hours on their cell phone in 480.
Right.
And they're like, well, this is just a bunch of blurry, whatever. Yeah, on your phone in 480, everything's a blurry, whatever, from 40 yards out. Try watching it in 1080 on your computer, and
or on a big screen TV too. Yeah.
You'll get a little bit better sense of what we're trying to show you. And look, not that I'm not saying that everything in that was great, but
it's something.
We showed movement in a couple of those, Did you get John? You watched it, right?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
The skeptic.
There you go.
Yeah. That's how insecure I am. I need this confirmation.
Yay, John.
The skeptic.
And here's that speech that I mentioned.
Now, and I think they're all fantastic. I love that approach.
Oh well, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's nice to have a lot of different personalities with different skill sets down there. That was cool.
But I did
do it again.
I did like this. So the way you took 168, where you kind of, did all that different like angle of it, I guess is the way, and let them all kind of go out and do their own thing and kind of try to capture as much as you could. That's a cool way to do it too.
Well, we're going to do it the way I actually want to do it when we go back. The way I want to film it anyway. Those guys do whatever they want to do. It's just the way I want to film it and present it. It's got to be more convincing as far as that's what we're trying to do. Convince people like you, John, that this is what's out there. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it is.
As well as the awareness factor.
Yeah, which is how do you go up to people, who are obviously leaning on the paranormal, if you will, because that's usually a good gateway to any of this type of thought. You can usually talk to somebody in that realm, right? So how do you kind of get them a little bit more into it to kind of help them through it, to figure it out? Maybe just to learn more. Maybe it's something, that would help bring people together in certain ways. Because, go ahead.
Open people's got to give them something that's going to open their eyes and make them at least perk up and pay attention when they're in the woods. That's all we want to do. Yeah. That's all we can do. I say it 1,000 times. That's a game that I think we can win. We can't prove these things are out there. No one's been able to so far. It's a matter of getting something that someone can latch on to and say, okay, this might be something.
That's
and
logical.
Then just consider that possibility. You don't have to believe any of it to consider the possibility when you're out there and you're experiencing something weird, to just let your mind go there and prepare yourself for this possibility. And I mean, it might seem like a strange notion or a strange way of going about it, but my experience is what makes me want to do it this way, because I know what it's like to be in that situation, to be there. Like I said, it's a dream. This is not happening. This has to be, when is someone going to say, okay, we were just messing with you? And it's not until later, getting out of the woods, getting into the truck and realizing no one popped out and said, hey, we're just messing with you. This actually happened. This was actually there. And it's still hard to grab hold of. It still is. It just messes with when you're not aware. I think when you're not aware and you get that sudden, moment of realization that these creatures, what people have been reporting in the woods for years, you just experienced. That's what this is. And then what is it? That's when the real deep dive began for me, was what is this? That's why I don't wonder any of those things anymore, because I don't care. I'm tired of wondering what they are and what they do and where they live and how they sleep and eat and, how they congregate and all this good stuff. I don't care that they're there. That's all I worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the government needs to, I don't know why they don't. I mean, we can all speculate. My current thinking is, my short answer is that the existence of these giants confirms some biblical narratives about giants. And yeah, it could be, but why not come out and, well, it's not that they haven't in the past. What is it, Washington State, the field field manual that they put out identified the Sasquatch, described them, has depictions of them. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure offhand.
It wasn't taken seriously. I can tell you that.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
but then the economic factor too, which we've discussed,
Oh yeah, good call.
Carrie, just about what it would do to state parks and hunting
Outdoor activities in the
Cabela's.
It was outdoor activities in the United States. People spent $886 billion in 2019 before COVID.
Jeez.
I don't know what it was since then, but that's what we looked up. 40 billion in logging. And most of that, a lot of that revenue is national parks.
Okay.
So, is it
factor? That's for sure.
Sure. Is it financial? I don't know.
No.
I think it could possibly fly in the face of the way we've been taught evolution for the last 150 years.
Yeah.
And in this being possibly, another human type species with the capacity for spatial thinking and maybe even moral conscience.
You look at the world's response to the governments coming out and saying, yes, we have vehicles made not of this planet, of this earth, basically coming out saying the UFO phenomenon is true. It was kind of met with a yawn. It was like, where's the great epiphany here?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they ever admitted it was not from another. They just said they didn't know what it was. Of course, if I had some super duper machine, and I would say I don't know what it is either.
Yep.
They probably know exactly what it is and what it does and how it works and all those things. If you listen to Bob Lazar,
right?
He seems to think that these things that they found were from an ancient, not from another planet, but from here, but an ancient civilization that was technologically advanced before we ever thought about it. I mean, you think about how long have we been a technological society? 70 years.
Yeah, not very long.
How many times could that happen in 100,000 years?
Right.
Well,
and what gets left behind?
Yeah, there's a book I read by Graham Hancock called "Fingerprints of the Gods," and it is it's exploring. Yeah, he's amazing. It is exploring, ancient artifacts, confirming that there were, advanced civilizations. Not like they're out there with iPhones and computers, but clearly advanced peoples, and it's really fascinating.
Coffee.
And, I speculate that the existence of Sasquatch are extant remnants of relics of these ancient civilizations. Maybe, I don't know.
You hear that a lot. Relic, human, hominoid. These things are here now.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it in those terms, then we're relic also. That's kind of how I see that.
Sure. We've been around, I think, longer than the 4,000 years or so that the Bible might indicate.
Well, if you go by, terrestrially, about 200 to 250,000 years, we just kind of show up in the fossil record. There's no transition from what they say we came from, which is what I think Sasquatch was. I think that's their ancestors, these type specimens that they say we don't have, that they've been digging out of the ground for 200 years, these hominoid skulls. It matches these creatures in the woods,
right,
in my estimation, perfectly. They just lived on and are so proficient and untrusting, obviously, of us, probably for a good reason. We can barely keep history of our own past for a couple of 100 years really good. It ends up getting changed along the way, and that's never been more prevalent than in today's society, how things are being changed, and statues of some great men that probably, at the time were doing some pretty immoral things, but that didn't make them, it didn't mean they didn't do great things.
Yeah, right. Immoral by today's standards. And the Bible warns not to judge the people of yesteryear by today's standards. Noah was a drunk, but he walked with God.
Yeah, no doubt.
Especially
no doubt. It's just when I talk about these externalities, these things that could possibly be the reason that whoever is keeping these things a secret, think about this. These things are masters at hiding, camouflage.
Mhm.
What if they don't want, someone out there that's going to broadcast to the masses the true abilities and proficiencies of these creatures, but they want to study and learn these secrets for themselves? It could be as simple as that.
Mhm.
I go back to thinking all the years that I hunted and I heard stuff that didn't make sense, but I ignored it, or else I said that had to have been a deer, or that could have been a hog, or that could have been it was always that could have been a,
Yeah.
and I focused on what I was hunting and just, in one ear and out the other, and didn't pay attention.
Well, look, this also works both ways. If you think about this, and I just considered this recently, a lot of times, and I hear mostly with people that call me, they talk about things going on around their house, rocks being thrown. Just spoke to a really nice lady that's going to be coming on Wednesday. Talked about black walnuts not falling, but seeing them, come in sideways and having all these other experiences go on. But think about this. What better way to teach your kids about human behavior than to sit them back and say, okay, watch how they react when we do this? Because we're very irrational, skittish species under certain circumstances. What better way to teach your kids about people and how they react and how they act than to show them?
Yeah, I'll bet you a deer and 2 hogs that this guy will jump 3 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
When I do this.
Yeah. Watch how fast they run outside. Or watch how quick they run to the window with a gun.
Watch this guy faint.
Yeah, I wonder if I
Maybe even
disappointed the night of my encounter because I decided to just sit down and finish my beer.
Yeah, well, I mean, what would they think about that? About someone not running off?
Yeah.
Because they have to know that they scare us. That's had to happen enough times to know that they know we're going to take off running when we see them.
And predators
Mostly
won't let you know that they're there before they pounce on you, right? I was reminded by one of Steve Isdall's comments recently, and it was just 2 years prior to, or a year, was it 2 years? A year prior that I had that benign encounter. It was just the stare down with that one. That's the evening I caught one briefly on video, and I don't think the one I caught was the same subject. But I didn't hear a thing that night. Saw the eye shine while I was engaged, and I wasn't aggressive. It was an impasse, and I think they know that I'm not going to be a reactionary and pull my gun and act out of fear. I think by their experience, they'll know I will sit and assess the situation and I think they've watched me before. I had an encounter with some humans up there. They were rambunctious, loud through the night. It got early hours in the morning. I called the state troopers. They came in. Apparently they weren't breaking any laws. But I heard one say, I want to go over and mess with them. And I was camping with my daughter, just bringing her up to my usual spot. I ended up, based on their reaction to me. And I was up for an hour and a half with the shotgun in my lap. After I heard one of these guys say, I want to go over there and mess with them. One of the girls in the group.
Protect yourself, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. I was going to lobby some, shot over their heads if they came into my camp. I wasn't going to shoot until they came into my camp, and that never happened, thank goodness. But I was prepared to.
Oh, you remember, you're in fear of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be prepared.
Well, being protective of your kids, especially, is an instinct. These are things that have stayed with us, I believe, for however long we've been here to protect. Yeah, the propagation of the species, protect the kids. And I don't think these creatures are any different in that respect. I think maybe exactly the same. A lot of these encounters and reactions happen, I believe, because there are little ones around.
It's like a mama bear.
They're seen or not. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, hey, we still got a few minutes left. Oh,
Somebody
John.
was snoring.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I was getting ready to stop the camera and do the help me to see if, since it was pointed out last Friday that a voice was heard.
Yeah. Thank you for that, John. Said there were giants on the earth in those days and after. Speaking
from Genesis, I believe.
Well, look, there are the mounds, and we had a show one night about the mounds and what has been taken from them, 10, 11 foot tall humanoid skeletons, polydactyl, 6 fingers and toes and 2 rows of teeth, and there are some of these mounds down in Florida, very near to where we shoot 168, where we shot the last one, and they're going to shoot the next one, and those things are watched. You take a stick and scratch the top of the dirt on one of those mounds, and it's over for you. They're going to put you away.
Wow.
They really, really protect those places. And I would just, you don't want to desecrate a burial site, obviously, but to me, would you want to do it if it proved the existence of these creatures, or at least that they were here? You could prove to somebody, hey, these things were here. Why couldn't they still be here? Would you do it?
I wouldn't now. I've been of the mindset that I would, but I've abandoned that. As they could have multiple times had their way with me and made me disappear. They haven't. I have come to the conclusion they are a people, and you mess with them, they'll mess with you, but you show them respect, and I believe that that's a two-way street as well.
Yeah, I think if you mess with them, you won't even know what hit you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I've always been of the mind that if it feels wrong, you probably shouldn't do it.
I found myself on a mound that I suspect, because on this bifurcation in the valley, it's up top. It was right next to it was very near the first teepee I ever found. And there are several mounds up there, and I suspect they are burial sites. I'm not going to go poking around to see if I'm right or wrong. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, that's one of the big questions. If these creatures exist, what do they do? Why don't we run into their bodies, or do they bury them? Do they eat them? What do they do with them? And I mean, who in the world knows? Maybe somebody in the world knows, but the general public, and pretty sure all of us amateur, Sasquatch enthusiasts and researchers don't really know. We all may have a good idea, but what do they do? What is the logical, rational explanation for this? Looking at it from the viewpoint of that, John, what would you think? What do you think? Average person that's with a skeptical eye.
Well, the way I thought about it was, on one side, maybe, like I said, they reuse everything, because if they're very smart creatures, and they do things like use tools, do whatever, because they do, fashion stuff apparently, and from what I hear, I mean, do they reuse everything, or do they find a place to bury these to where no one can find them because they're masters of camouflage? I don't know. An irrational mind would say then they don't exist if you can't find them, because we find bones and fossils of everything else. But it's a rational thought. But then I also have the mind leaning towards, if they are real, they could be reusing them or finding ways to get rid of them in a way that we could not find them. So I don't know.
Maybe so. I kind of look at it in more of a, if they are family oriented, and these creatures do have free will, which would suggest that they can feel love and hate and other emotions like that. That they're not going to leave one of their loved ones around just rotting.
Yeah.
Especially not for us to kick over and then be busted at that point.
No, because if you spend that much time trying to hide, or blend in and not be basically bothered by us, then you're definitely going to put in the effort that we can't come take that from you. Like after they supposedly died, you would think they'd put that much effort into concealing that too.
Someone said there was a marsh bog, that it was water underneath, and this thick moss layer on top, and that they would put their dead underneath that. It would be in the water, but that way, you know, completely everything would be gone except for the bones, but it would always be under this. So if the water did dry out, it was still covered up with, who knows if this is true or not. I mean, I have to ask these questions. I ask myself these questions when I listen to some of these things, and you hear some of these, well, you know, the males do this, they congregate and go up and do this. And, you know, all of these things that I feel like have to be observed to really know. And if you're observing it, why aren't you filming it? And if you are filming it, why aren't you showing us? So, you know, this is the series of questions that come along for me that I'm sure that I would be, you know, I would be the butthole for asking them if I ever really got someone on here that asserted things like that. They tend to not want to come talk to us.
I'm reminded of an account in Enoch, as it's told. I think the character's name is Mike, who had a relationship or claims to have had a relationship, and who am I to doubt it? I don't know. It was a good read, but he said he witnessed on the outside looking in a burial of a juvenile subject. And he said the mother grieved, you know, but they put him under a tree. I think he lifted up a tree in this.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
And put him under the tree, and you know, maybe that's why. Who knows? And every situation is going to be different, I imagine. If these mounds that I found on this this top of the hill and this bifurcation in the valley are in fact burial spots, you know.
You'd think they'd be pretty protective of it and maybe try to run you out of there.
Well, I've been up there several times poking around. I've gotten some audio from the area. As a matter of fact, in one of those, and it's so subtle that I even question my own, you know, belief that I actually heard it. But I have what sounds like chanting, and it's in this harmonic, resonant sort of vocal that I've heard in other recordings. You know, I think they are a spiritual creation that have the ability to think in the abstract. And you know, do they have a soul? I don't know. But I do believe they are a people, and in many ways they're living a very simple, beautiful existence, eating simple foods and breathing pure air wherever they are.
Well, you know, I think I can give you a pretty good way to find out if those burial mounds there. I don't know, what is that scratching noise? What happened? I think we just lost John. This is what you do, man. You take a shovel with you, okay, and you don't really dig anything up, but you act like you're going to. And if you get some reaction going on around you, and you know, hope
if you're out of body really quickly, looking down on yourself, you know, it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Try to record it if you can. Tell us where it's going to be so we can find the recorder.
You know, see if I can probe something.
Well, man, I hate that we lost John. We're at the end of our hour, and you know, we used to go longer on the late show, but I'm worn out. I had to change my shirt because I was running to try to get here from just taking care of an alarm, and I think I got one of Hunter's shirts because I grabbed it and I was coming in here to put it on, and it was like, man, I need to lose some weight, you know. And it was like the sleeves were way up here. The shirt I had on earlier, and I was like, man.
Well, I thought you changed shirts, and I was like,
I did. This thing. That's why I left. That's why I went. I'll be back. It was choking me out. So no, I think this is an extra large. So that other one I believe was an extra medium.
Hey guys, Brad, I don't know how to get in touch with you, but Carrie, you can provide the information. Shoot me someplace, an address where I can send a few stickers. I just had a bunch printed up, and I'm gonna start selling them in local, trying to ease the blow of this unemployment I'm enduring, and having fun
too, man.
Busy and,
Well, I hope you alleviate that situation soon. I know you said you were looking into a few things, and we really appreciate you coming on. And
yes, I do.
I'm sorry we lost
again.
Yeah, I'm
Anytime.
sorry we lost John.
I can't talk about this with my wife, so believe me, any chance I get to talk about this. I've added a podcast and presentations page to the website, michiganaboriginal.com, and I'm looking forward to adding this. I'll do that before I go to bed.
Yeah, send me a link to that so I can put it in the description.
Right on. Thank you. I will.
Yeah, no problem. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Sorry we lost John. John will be joining us from time to time.
Yeah, he's a good man. It's the first time I may have seen him in the past episode. I don't recall for sure, but yeah, good man and good conversation.
Well, I just think it's important that we get his perspective.
Because he asks questions that Kerry and I are constantly asking, or have almost, there he is. We've almost asked ourselves out of the questions. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, John, I think is still closer to that. You know, I'm really not sure. We're talking about you behind your back, by the way. John.
That's fine.
That he thinks to ask these things when they come up, and this is just the perspective, because Brad and I have done this enough. We're well over 150 of these. No, well, now I think we're over 100 at this point of just the late show.
We are.
We don't think to ask these things, so that's why I think it's important we have our friend John on here with us every now and then to bring us back around. No, we appreciate you taking the time to do it, John.
Thank you, John.
And thank you, James. Go check out Michigan Aboriginal Project. You can find that on YouTube. Look for the link in the description. I'll also put a link to the website in the description, and check out the links from My Patriot Supply. Get your own emergency food supply. This day and age, not a bad thing. You don't want to be kicking around the supermarket pilfering through yam cans, since everyone else has picked over everything else when things go down. So just have your emergency food supply. There is a link in the description for that, and we appreciate if you use our special website, preparewithbigfoot.com. There's special deals in there they put in all the time, but you can just go to your Safari or whatever your search bar is and type in My Patriot Supply, and they've got tons of deals all the time. I just think everybody should have one. So whether you get it from us or not, I still think you should have one regardless. But we appreciate everybody that does, and thanks y'all for showing up. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, members. Everybody who's a member, join me with She Squatchers. We're gonna have a good show. Those ladies are they're something else, that's for sure. So
my regards.
Absolutely.
Nice to see you, John. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on again.
Yes, sir. Yes,
enjoyed it.
Good.
Look forward to it.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
So long.
All right.